Well, statues have come down. Protesters have called for change. And today, the EU's top officials held their own discussions on racism in the bloc. The European commissioners took part in a debate on the issue in Brussels. But one problem that needs to be addressed is the lack of diversity in the EU's institutions. There isn't a single non-white member of the Commission, and there never has been. Jack PARROCK reports.
The killing of George Floyd in the US sparked a wave of Black Lives Matter protests, which came over to Europe. Despite the COVID-19 lockdowns, tens of thousands of people marched across the continent. It prompted the EU Commission to use its weekly meeting to talk about race issues within the administration. The Belgian commissioner they sent out to speak after the meeting was infamously photographed in blackface in 2015. And the debate about confronting Europe's colonial past is still raging in his native Belgium.
The request to remove some statues or to change some names of streets, I'm not sure that is the best way. The best way is not to try to have a new version of the historical past of one member state. It's more to insist on research and debate and analyze on the memories. And then the best ways maybe to organize a full respect for the diversity in all our societies.
That diversity isn't reflected here in Brussels, though. There's never been an EU commissioner who isn't white European. The European Parliament passed a motion calling for the end of racism and discrimination last week. But less than 5% of its members are from minority ethnic backgrounds, compared to 10% of the EU's population, according to the European Network Against Racism.
And Jack joins me now from our studio, the bridge, which is at the heart of the European Parliament. Hello there to you, Jack. So, as your report quite rightly pointed out, the EU has some issues, clear issues when it comes to diversity. So how much do we know about how representative, I guess, this Commission discussion was?
Well, that is one of the big problems with the European Commission, Isabel. When they're discussing race, every commissioner that was sat around that table was a white European. And obviously, organisations that are campaigning against racism and campaigning for more inclusion would say that without people sat at that table, it's a difficult debate for them to have realistically. Now, the European Commissioner, Vera Jourova, she says that they will outline some concrete plans to deal with institutional racism and to deal with bringing in more diversity in the autumn. To discuss this a little bit further with me, I have Monica SEMEDO, who's an MEP here in the European Parliament. What do you make of this debate? As I said, 27 commissioners sat around talking about racism, none of them any form of ethnic minority. How does that make you feel?
In my eyes, it's a good first step. It's an important step that had to be done. It means also a clear signal to EU citizens and black people that the time for silence is over, that they take their concerns and issues seriously. So it's a first step, but discussions, as you said, in the Commission, where you don't have diversity, ethnical diversity, is not all. So we have to take action now and as soon as possible, and clear targeted action.
So one of the things is that they could be accused of is that this is a little bit reactionary. It's come off the back of the Black Lives Matter movement that started in the United States, and that's what it took for Europe to confront its racism problem. What do you think needs to be done?
There needs a lot to be done because most of the directives are focusing on discrimination on the labour market. Equality is enshrined in the treaty and in the convention, but we have to do more, so go beyond the labour market. And that's why we ask as an EP, as a European Parliament, to unblock the anti-discrimination directive, which is locked since 2008, so more than 12 years. And I mean, maybe what happened in the US now brings into our mind, and we ask ourselves, Are we different? Do we have the same problems? And this is important as well. I think the time has come to talk about that. Maybe the European Union is now ready. The people are, the citizens are ready to talk about racism, to talk about discrimination and more equality. And we should listen to what they want from us. And as an EP, we are strongly behind EU citizens.
You mentioned the anti-discrimination directive here in the European Parliament that is, as you rightly mentioned, has been blocked for 12 years.
Yeah.
What's your take on why that has been so impossible to get moving here?
It's stuck in the council because some of the member states, they can't agree. You need unanimity in the council for it to be agreed upon, and that's a difficult task as it seems. But we say clearly, act now.
One of the other things that we've seen is, this call for statues. Very interestingly, Didier Reynders, the European Commissioner that was part of that press conference as well, but as recently as 2015 was photographed in blackface. He discussed the statues of the colonial Belgian King Leopold II. What do you think of that statue issue? Do you think they should be brought down, that those sort of the colonial past issues need to be dealt with, or are you more keen on pressing on current issues in the institutions?
I'm coming from Luxembourg, where we don't have such statues. I understand the anger of people, but violence is never a solution. But let's come together also with stakeholders, which is now very important, and let's discuss what are the grounds of discrimination and racism here in Europe especially, and how can we fight that? In my eyes, education is an important step, and we have to begin at the national party level. They should also address people with other backgrounds, with disadvantaged backgrounds, for example. They can bring in an added value also to the European Parliament. I have the same background. So we start at the national level, party level, and on education, and then we will also have more diversity on the candidate lists for the European Parliament, for national government, so we can change the Commission and the Council as well.
Monica Semedo, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to get the view of one of only a handful of black MEPs here in the European Parliament. As I mentioned earlier, Isabel, the European Commission says that in the autumn they will outline some solid plans to deal with this issue.
Okay, and we're waiting for those plans. Well, Jack PARROCK in Brussels, thank you.